Hey guys. Okay, so tonight I'm gonna start a new segment on personality disorders. And I'm gonna start with Avoidant Personality Disorder, or AvPD. Um, First though, I'm gonna tell you a little bit about personality disorders. Just a little bit. I don't want to go overboard and, um, rant about just this for so long. But, alright, so there are three um, basically clusters of personality disorders. There's A, B, and C. In cluster A, you have the paranoid, the schizoid, and schizotypal. Um, these three are the ones that seem um, odd and eccentric. These are the people, and of course not everybody who's odd and eccentric has a personality disorder, but if they have this personality disorder, this is how they'll appear. They'll look odd and eccentric. They'll do weird things. They'll just be kind of weird. Not kind of. They'll be pretty weird. Um, B, cluster B, is antisocial, borderline, histrionic, and narcissistic personality disorder. Um, these are the ones that seem very dramatic and theatrical. The dramatic personalities, the people that are just out there and they're the drama queens, and they show erratic emotional phases. Like, they have mood swings that are like roller coasters. Um, so yeah, that is part of cluster B. And then the last one is cluster C. It has avoidant personality disorder, which is the one I'm going over today or tonight. It's nighttime here, but who knows when you'll watch it, if you'll watch it. Um, Then there's avoidant personality disorder, there's dependent personality disorder, and then obsessive compulsive personality disorder. And the distinction needs to be made. OCPD, obsessive compulsive personality disorder, is different from OCD, the actual obsessive compulsive disorder. And I will be going over that specifically on my video of OCPD. So my last two videos, they're part 1 and 2, I went over the subtypes of Asperger's syndrome. And one of the subtypes of Asperger's syndrome was the actor. I feel like this kind of avoidant plays a little part in the actor aspect because if you didn't watch my other videos, the actor aspect is the one that basically not pretends, but they have enough social skills to pass as normal. And they may be that social chameleon that picks up on the way someone communicates. Now, this is not to be confused with the narcissist social chameleon, because the narcissistic social chameleon, I guess, does it in a way that they'll also completely absorb your ideas, your thoughts, your opinions, the way you talk. Um, just they go pretty far into it. The Aspie social chameleon, and this isn't absolute. This isn't absolute. This isn't for every Aspie that is an actor Aspie. But they are different from the narcissistic social chameleon in the fact that they absorb and they take over your style of communicating, but they don't necessarily take your ideas and your opinions. For instance, when I'm talking to someone, I might kind of pick up on the way that they gesture, I might pick up on the way that they speak, and I might pick up their humor a little bit, because these are things that elude me naturally. Psychologically, my brain doesn't work that way, and so it adapts and it picks up what it learns rather than what it already knows. So the Aspie social chameleon will keep their ideas and their opinions and their inner self there. They just communicate it in a way that's different from how they would naturally do so, because how they would naturally do so would be pretty blank, and they may not get their point across at all, because that's how the Aspie does. Okay, so moving on. I'm gonna list the as always as the two videos that I have. I'm gonna list the symptoms, or I'll just call it the criteria because symptoms don't really fit, I don't think. So the criteria for avoidant personality disorder is number 1, avoids interaction with others for fear of being criticized, ridiculed, or rejected. This is kind of self-explanatory. This also goes under they'll avoid occupational situations. The teenager that is avoidant might skip school a lot, not because they hate school or whatever, but mostly because of the people, and they're afraid of being rejected and criticized. Yeah, so that one's kind of self-explanatory. They avoid what will embarrass them, basically. If there's a possibility of them being embarrassed, they'll avoid it because that's like the worst thing that could happen to them. In their mind, of course. In reality, it's not really like that, but they're overcompensating for an inferiority complex. So number 2 is unwilling to, I can't see, unwilling to interact with certain people unless they're certain of being liked. Not just certain people, with people in general. They're unwilling to try and be your friend and talk to you unless they kind of get a taste of how you act and what you like and your opinions, and you're sure that they'll like you. You're absolutely sure that they're not going to make fun of you for anything or criticize you for anything that you might say or do. Yeah, so the third one shows restraint in relationships for fear of being shamed or ridiculed. And this goes into romantic relationships as well for the avoidant, not just interpersonal relationships. In a romantic relationship, they might actually, for instance, even after a year of dating, they still may be a little bit reluctant to to get undressed in front of their partner if they have a pimple or something. If they have a pimple on their back and they don't want them to see it, they feel like they're going to be embarrassed or ridiculed, that they would be kind of afraid to, to do that. Also, avoidant personality disorder is in cluster C. I don't know if I mentioned, but those in cluster C are the ones that appear fearful and anxious. So avoidant, dependent, and OCPD. So these 3 are the ones that seem fearful and anxious, and they have tendencies to push things away or to cling on to things way more than they should. Okay. The next one is preoccupation with criticism and rejection. This really means because the avoidant is hypervigilant in social situations, I think there is a co-occurrence with the Asperger individual and the avoidant, because there's a lot of similarities. There's a lot that goes into it, especially if you're the rejected, the outcast that I also mentioned in my last video. If you're the outcast Aspie, you might be avoidant because you're afraid of being rejected like you have been so many times, and so you might stray from people who you think will reject you, and then cling to others that you know won't. And then this kind of plays into that. But what I was saying was the avoidant is hypervigilant in social situations. So really this means that they are constantly paying attention to everything that is going on in the social situation. Body language, facial expressions, tone of voice, what's being said, how people are saying it, what is the context, am I being weird, am I not, do they like me, I don't know, That's kind of what's going on in their mind. And they're preoccupied with it to a point that is pervasive and inflexible. So they're constantly thinking about that, and that's why I think that avoidant and Asperger's really coincide a lot of the time, at least some avoidant traits coincide with Asperger's, I think. And these are opinions based off of some fact, the DSM-IV. I showed this in my other videos, but just in case you didn't watch those, that's where I get most of my facts, all of my facts really, and the others I verify online with personal experiences, including my own personal experience. That way I get a broad range of information to give to you guys. Okay, the next one is inhibited in new social situations because of feeling of inadequacy. Sorry, I seem to be getting really close to the camera. I have a note card, so inhibition in new social situations because of inadequacy. They feel inadequate or inferior to others. So they may not talk at all, or they may talk very quietly. But really, they just feel inadequate, and so they feel like anything they say is going to be viewed as stupid, or is going to be viewed as like, why did she just say that? Whatever, and blow them off. Basically, it's worse in high school. I think worse in high school and middle school, and usually, good news for anybody who thinks they have this or any personality disorder. Most of the time, and I say most of the time, and I emphasize most of the time rather than all of the time. Most of the time with personality disorders, they fade over time. They do remit, and they get better with age and with wisdom and experience and learning how to cope most of the time. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes they get worse, but it's really about what you learn about yourself and how you introspect and how you really take all that in. Alright, the next one is views self as socially inept, unappealing, and or inferior to others. Yeah, this is pretty self-explanatory. They have a huge inferiority complex, and so that's why they overcompensated with an avoidant personality disorder. And of course, none of this is intentional. It's all the ego kicking in, or remitting. It's whichever one it's really doing. Well, a little bit of both sometimes, kick and remit, you know. Anyway, they feel completely inferior to everybody, unless they meet someone, and even when they meet people that they really, really relate to, they will feel inferior, and they will fear slight ridicule and rejection, unless they've known those people and they can completely trust them 100%, which doesn't happen a lot with the avoidant, and it doesn't really happen a lot with the ASPE either, some ASPEs. Okay, and the last one, I don't want to make it quick, I don't want to make another 16-minute video. The last one is the reluctance to take personal risks or engage in new activities or social situations for fear of embarrassment, or if those actions would prove embarrassing. For instance, the avoidant probably wouldn't go snowboarding because they don't know how. Well, I mean, if they don't know how, they're not going to go snowboarding and learn how to snowboard because it would prove to be embarrassing to their friends, or to them. Their friends might, they fear that their friends might look at them and say, oh my gosh, she doesn't know how to snowboard. But really, in reality, that doesn't really happen. And that, I mean, it does with some people, but for the most part, sorry, that was really loud. A lot of people are understanding, and that wouldn't be the case. So, I wish I could go over it a little bit more in depth. If you have any questions, though, if this video didn't really cover what avoidant is, keep in mind, everybody, this is my note card, everybody will experience some of these at least once in their life. The normal people may experience this on a daily basis. The difference between having a personality disorder and just having a personality is these traits keep you from functioning properly or being happy, and these things keep you from, you know, living your life as a normal person could, neurotypical really, because you are so preoccupied and you're just so enamored with the idea of, what if he doesn't like me? What if they laugh at me? What if this and what if that? The anxious, fearful mindset. So keep in mind that you can have all of these, but if they don't affect your quality of life, there's really nothing to worry about. If you're comfortable with yourself, then there shouldn't be anything to worry about. But always go to psychologists anyway, because it's healthy anyway, because they can really tell you what's going on in here when you can't quite grasp what it is. So, alright. Thank you for watching, as always. Good night.